Okay, your recording started. So for level 2, we are going to go deeper. That means we are not going to cover everything in because we have 24 weeks. So we will cover, basically we are covering every topic of the Gita, but some topics we will go deeper, which is supposed to be more relevant for the rest of us. And some topics we will just glance briefly. But in general, there will be much more depth than what we have done before. So that's basically the setting of how the level 2 will go in. Okay. Right. So now today's class, we are just going to mainly focus on one verse, and then we are going to look deep into the aspects of that verse covers. So the first verse is Bhagavad Gita 1.1. So this is the very first verse, and it's out of the 700 verses, this is the only verse that is spoken by neither Arjuna or Krishna or Sanjaya. So this is the only verse spoken by Drtarashtra for the entire 700. So the verse goes like this: Drtarashtra uvacha. I'm thinking, would anyone like to read? So we can also try to practice our pronunciation for Sanskrit. Don't worry if it's wrong. So just plow ahead and say the verse. Anyone wants to try? No? Can I call someone then? Just one verse. Okay, maybe I will. Yes, please.
Drtarashtra uvacha dharmasestra gurusestra samaveda yujutsava mamaka pandavaschaiva kim akurvata sanjaya.
The translation, please.
Drtarashtra said, O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do?
Thank you very much, Ms. Suga. So that was an excellent first try. So let me just help you to pronounce this better. So I'll just explain what the diacritic marks here would help you. So this is Drtarashtra. You see, when you see a dash on top of a vowel, that means you pull it. So it's not. So you say Drtarashtra. So here you can see Samaveta. So it's a long A. So here we have another one, Mamaka Pandavas. So it's okay. I mean, sometimes we don't really, even I make mistakes all the time, but the idea is I'm just explaining to you. And then when you see a dot at the bottom, like the S, there's a dot at the bottom. So that means you stress. So the R, for example, is a strong R. Drtarashtra. Okay, that one we seldom pronounce it correctly, but I'm just letting you know. And then when you see an H with a dot at the bottom, so then you say that it comes with the ha. Like for example, Yuyut Savaha. So that's only for the H. It's special for the H. So so how it will go? It's like, for example, Drtarashtra uvacha dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha. See, can you see the H and all? So we can practice. We can all take turns to read the verses, and then we can eventually master it very fast. Okay, so I want to pull your attention to two words here. One is Drtarashtra and the other is Kurukshetra. So who is Drtarashtra? So a bit of background story. In the first level 1, I didn't really give you a background story to the Mahabharata. It was very brief. So here I'll just explain who Drtarashtra is. So what happened was, this is the Mahabharata story. So if you're familiar with it, you would know. You can just take it as a refresher. So there was a king called Shantanu. So Shantanu had a son, and he was Bhishma Dev. He was not known as Bhishma at that time. He was called Devadatta. So anyway, but Bhishma was supposed to be the king after Shantanu. Shantanu is one of the powerful kings of the entire Kuru dynasty. But Bhishma Dev, what happened was, something happened. It's a long story. We won't go into that. But in the end, Bhishma Dev took a vow just for the pleasure of his father, that because his father wanted to get married to another woman. So, and this woman put the condition that her children only will become the crown prince. So Bhishma cannot be the crown prince. So the father didn't agree. He was upset. So he decided to cancel that marriage. So, but still, Bhishma Dev could see how disturbed Shantanu Maharaj was. He was very deeply in love with that lady, but because of this, he was not happy. So therefore, when Bhishma saw this, he himself went to meet this lady, and then he himself arranged the marriage with his father. And then when the lady asked, "It's all very nice that you're doing this, but then what about my children? Now we all know people can change their words." So then Bhishma said, "Don't worry, I will take a vow." So at that time, he took a vow of celibacy. So ever since then, he was known as Bhishma. So therefore, he renounced the right to be the king. So like that, their children, they were born. The first child who was born was born, they had two children, Vichitra Virya, yeah, and one more person I forgot. So anyway, Vichitra Virya became the next king, but then he died, and then he died in warfare, and then there's another brother, and that brother also died, but he was able to produce a child. So that child was, there were two children. There is Dhritarashtra, the eldest, and then there is Pandu, the second one, and there was a third person called Vidura. So it's a long story also. It's a very interesting story, but I don't want to finish all that. It'll take a long time to mention that story. But the point here I'm trying to say is that the eldest prince is Dhritarashtra. But unfortunately, he was born blind. So, though he was the rule is the eldest child should be the king. But when the child is born blind, then naturally he is not fit to be a king. So therefore, in favor of the situation of his blindness, because of his blindness, Pandu was favored as the next king. But Pandu, he was born, but he had some kind of blood disorder. So he wasn't a very healthy person. And he also died due to a curse. It's a very interesting story also. Mahabharata, it's 100,000 words, 100,000 verses. It's a very, very long epic, longest epic in the world. So there are many stories within stories within stories. So anyway, Pandu died, and before he died, Pandu had two wives, Kunti and Madri. So Kunti had a special boon. She had the power to invoke the Devatas and have a child by their blessing. So though Pandu died, but because the kingdom didn't have an heir, so Pandu was supposed to be the king, but Pandu died. So Dhritarashtra is blind. And Bhishma, he already took a vow. So he couldn't go against his vow. So he couldn't be king. So, and the other child born, the other brother, there are three, right? Pandu, Dhritarashtra, and one more is Vidura. But Vidura was actually born through a different mother. So it's not the same mother. And somehow they are stepbrothers. And Vidura was born from a lower caste, not a princely order. So he couldn't become the king either. So it again fell back to Dhritarashtra, although Dhritarashtra was blind. So this is the fate. He was supposed to be king, but because he was blind, he was put aside. But now Pandu died, and again he became king, but not really king because he's supposed to be regent. Regent means he just takes care of the kingdom until Pandu's children grow up. So Kunti had 5 children. Kunti is the wife of Pandu. And the first child is, you all know, Yudhishthira Maharaj, the son of Yamaraj himself, Dharmaraj or Yamaraj, the god of death or the god of justice. And the second son, because when Kunti thought, I should have a righteous person to be the king. If there's going to be a king, the king should be very, very righteous. And who else should I invoke other than Yamaraj himself, who is the Lord of righteousness, the supreme judge. So therefore, she got Vidura as the first son. Then she thought, but righteousness alone, we need strength of arms to actually uphold that righteousness. We need great strength to uphold that righteousness because people always challenge. So then she had another child. She called Vayu, the god of wind, who's very, very strong. So she had Bhima as the second son. And then she thought, but strength of arms also alone may not be sufficient. We need expertise in weaponry because ultimately all conflicts are settled in warfare. So therefore, she thought of Indra, the god of heaven, the king of heaven, who was extremely powerful in, he always fights against the demons and all that. So who else but him who can be so expert? So in this way, she got Arjuna as the third child. So like that, she invoked also the Ashwini Kumaras, and she got Nala and Nala Griva. Sorry, what's the name? Nakula and Sahadev, yes, as the fourth and the fifth child. But they were, okay, anyway. So now that Drtarashtra became regent, but he always had a desire to be king. And his initial, he was supposed to be king, but he was blind, but he still had a desire. And because of this desire, he always harbored a secret hope that maybe I don't have to let the Pandavas are the 5 sons of Kunti, Yudhishthira Maharaj and all that. I don't have to let them. So fate has it that he managed to get 100 sons. There's a long story behind that also. And they were all born in a special way. But 100 sons of Dhritarashtra. And these sons are called the Kauravas. So, and the leader of this, the eldest of this Kaurava is Duryodhana. Now, Duryodhana had a lot of vile qualities in him. He was very intelligent, he was very diplomatic, but he was also very greedy, very cunning, and very deceitful. And he was always envious of the Pandavas. They grew up together because, after Pandu died, by right, the sons of the Kunti became a widow, right? And then she had her young children. They were all very young. They were just few years old, 3 years, 4 years, like that. So all of them had to be taken care. So by right, they should have been taken care by Dhritarashtra. And Dhritarashtra did invite them to his kingdom, and they all stayed together. But they grew together with the Kauravas, side by side. And while they were growing up, there started an envy, a transcendental, not transcendental, it became an envious situation where the Kauravas, they knew that Yudhishthira Maharaj will be the next king. And they were not happy about that. And they thought, currently my father is the regent. Why should I allow the Yudhishthira Maharaj to become the next king? So Duryodhana was always, in front of them, he was very sweet and, trying to be nice, but he was always plotting behind their backs in some way to remove them, to kill them even. So he tried in different ways. When they were very young, even when they were children, Duryodhana was very cruel. He tried to poison Bhima. He knew Bhima is someone who likes to eat a lot. So he gave Bhima a poisoned cake. So anyway, but Bhima managed to survive. That's also another story. And then, so he gave poison. And then at one point of time when they were all grown, he actually hatched a plot to burn them alive. So he actually convinced Dhritarashtra to actually build a palace. Usually, royal people during their summer holidays, they will go to a different place and they'll stay in a different palace. So they had a place where they used to go. So Duryodhana told Dhritarashtra, you build this special palace, and inside the palace, you put flammable material. made of lac. It's a type of material which easily bursts into flames. And then we get them to stay there, and then we will burn them alive. Now, Dhritarashtra, he was born blind. So here, if you read the purport of this chapter, of this verse, Prabhupada gives the purport. He says that although born blind, not only he was materially blind, Dhritarashtra was also morally blind. He was also spiritually blind. So why he was morally blind? Because he knew what was right and wrong, but he could never assert his, though he was king, though he was father, but he could never change Duryodhana. Initially he tried to advise Duryodhana, no, don't be like that, this is not right. But because he had that desire in his heart, which was growing, and because Duryodhana personified that desire, so eventually, and he was a weak character, Dhritarashtra, and he was very easily swayed by his son's counsel. So in this way, slowly, little by little, he gave in to Duryodhana, and eventually he even became a conspirator. So this is the situation with Dhritarashtra. So like that, they tried to burn them alive. They managed to escape thanks to Krishna and thanks to Vidura, their uncle. And like that, then later they tried to steal their kingdom before they even had the gambling match. They actually had they actually had two gambling matches. The first gambling match, it was a friendly game, and when the Pandavas lost, they told them, okay, now you have to give up your kingdom. But somehow Dhritarashtra, by the counsel of Bhishma and by the counsel of Vidura, was convinced not to allow that to happen. But Duryodhana was very unhappy. So he forced his father to say, if you don't want to get rid of them, at least divide the kingdom in half. So the kingdom was actually divided in half, and the Pandavas were given the kingdom. At that time, it was called Indraprastha. So there was Hastinapura and there was Indraprastha. So the Pandavas got Indraprastha. And they were so cruel. They actually gave the Indraprastha was actually a very barren land. It was full of poisonous plants, and the area was not very fertile. And there were a lot of dangerous beings living there. So purposely they gave this kind of tract of land to them. But still, by the assistance of Lord Krishna and by the prowess of the Pandavas and by their virtuous nature, they managed to overcome all obstacles, and they made Indraprastha very prosperous. In fact, it became more prosperous than Hastinapura, that Duryodhana became chagrined. I gave them a useless tract of land, and now they have become better than me. So the envy burned within his heart. And again, he contrived to start again trick them again. So like that, the second time he managed to do this gambling match and force them. They all didn't want to take part in the gambling match. But then, because Duryodhana was very intelligent, he forced Dhritarashtra to call them. And because Dhritarashtra was an elder, and he knew that Yudhishthira Maharaj will not go against an elder's command, especially the king's command, even though Yudhishthira Maharaj would know it's not correct, but because he's bound by his vow to always follow the elders, so Duryodhana manipulated the situation and he banished them. After cheating them, not only he was satisfied with cheating them, he wanted to also get rid of, he also wanted to insult their wife, Draupadi. Because Duryodhana, he also wanted to win Draupadi's hand in marriage. When Draupadi was about to get married, they had a ceremony, Swayamvara ceremony. It's like a competition. So in this competition, they wanted, the ladies in those days, the Kshatriya ladies, they will say, who is the best person fit to marry her? I will give my daughter to her, to him. So the competition was such that the one who can, win the very, very difficult archery contest. So everybody took part in it. Arjuna took part in it. Arjuna won it fair and square. But these people, the Duryodhana, Karna, all of them, they were very unhappy with how it turned out, because Draupadi was one of the most beautiful people, one of the most beautiful ladies at that time. And it was very, they couldn't accept it. So they actually fought. They had a battle, even though Arjuna won. And Arjuna managed to defeat all of them single-handedly. So this Kauravas, especially Duryodhana, Karna, Jayadratha, all of them always lusted after Draupadi secretly, and they always and they were always finding a way to, you know, somehow insult the Pandavas and insult Draupadi. So they did that also. They actually insulted the wife of the Pandavas directly in front of their eyes. So again, they were saved by Krishna. So like that, and all this was happening in front of Dhritarashtra, and Dhritarashtra did not raise a single word of to ask them to stop. So this was what was happening. So this is the type of character of Dhritarashtra. So we can understand from here. So like that, it goes on. You know, there are many incidences that happened, and even later, when Dhritarashtra, when finally when war was inevitable, when so many things were done, the Pandavas were banished to the forest. They stayed in the forest for 13 years, and then on the last year, they were supposed to go incognito. They were supposed to be staying hidden for one entire year. That was the condition. They are banished for 13 years, and the last year they must stay hidden. Nobody should be able to find where they are. So this was the way Duryodhana was so cruel. But they managed to do all these things. But still, after all the conditions were met, when they returned and asked for again, you know, let us come back. But Duryodhana said, I will not. He knew, because if I give them little bit of authority, they will quickly eclipse me, because they are so wonderful. They quickly can eclipse me. So I will never give them a piece of land. And his envy was burning so strong that he was saying that I will not even. Actually, the Pandavas, they sent Krishna to be the mediator. So Krishna actually went to be the peacemaker. Let's be diplomatic. Don't be unreasonable, Duryodhana. So, and Duryodhana tried to capture Krishna, but Krishna, of course, he was the supreme lord. He couldn't be captured. But anyway, the negotiation went in such a way that when they asked, when on behalf of the Pandavas, Krishna asked, can you, at least, if you cannot give them kingdom, by right is their kingdom, but if you cannot give it to them, never mind, we will avoid war. But at least can you give them 5 villages? Why? Because they are Kshatriyas. You know, Kshatriyas, their nature is to manage. The people in those days, you know, there were Brahmanas, there were Kshatriyas, there were Vaishyas. So Kshatriyas, they have to, you know, they are warriors. They have their makeup, psychological makeup. They have to manage something. So, and it's not only the psychological makeup, it is their dharma. So by right, the king should allow the dharma of every single person. Otherwise, anyone who stops the dharma of a single person is actually sinful. So he asked, at least can you give 5 villages, so that, you know, in some place, you don't have to give a kingdom, just a village, 5 villages for each one of the Pandavas. But Duryodhana said, I won't give 5 villages also. What to speak of 5 villages? I won't even give land enough for you to stick a pin. Can you imagine a pin? How much land will it take to stick a small pin inside? So that's one drop, one grain of sand also, that much of land I will not give to the Pandavas. So this was Duryodhana's obstinacy. And Dhritarashtra was watching all these things. And in his heart, he actually was secretly happy, because now, ultimately, I can remain king. And when I die, my sons Duryodhana can be the next king. And my line will continue. So you can see from this verse, Dhritarashtra Uvacha, he says, in the holy land, Dharma Kshetre, Kurukshetre, right? Mamaka Pandavas, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage. So here the mentality of Dhritarashtra is revealed. Why is he differentiating? Because the Pandavas, being the brother's children, when the brother dies, a benevolent king should consider the sons of his brother to be equivalent to his own children. They should actually embrace them together as one family. This was what is usually done. So they were all Kurus. By right, they are Kurus. Pandavas are Kurus, the Kauravas are Kurus. But here, you can see that he is thinking only of his sons as the Kurus. After my sons and the sons of Pandu So he's separating them, right? Mamaka, he's separating the Pandu's children. So he's already having different, he's already having double standards. So we can understand the mentality of Dhritarashtra. So what's the purport behind this? The purport is we should not follow in the same footsteps of Dhritarashtra, obviously. So not only was he physically blind, he was morally blind. He was condoning every single action, every vile action of the sons of his sons, without checking. He tried to check them, but then after failing, he became a fellow conspirator together with the rest of them. So this was Dhritarashtra. And at the same time, obviously, when one is morally blind, he was also spiritually blind. He could not understand. Now, you see, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, he was there, present in front of everybody. And all the saintly people could understand Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhishma could understand, the Pandavas could understand, a lot of them could understand, the sages could understand, but Dronacharya could understand, Vidura could understand, but then the Kauravas could never understand, and Dhritarashtra also could not understand. So he was spiritually blind. So that's the purport behind that. And then there's another sentence here, Kurukshetra. So, O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight. So why Kurukshetra? So Kurukshetra is also called Dharmakshetra. Dharmakshetra means the place of pilgrimage, a holy place. So why was he worried if it's a holy place? He was worried because few reasons. One reason was he was thinking, deep inside he knows that his sons were not righteous. And deep inside he knows that the Pandavas were supremely righteous. And then, he was thinking, if we fight in a holy place, surely the outcome will favor the righteous. So therefore, he was a little worried. Not a little, he was quite worried. So that was the first reason. Second reason was he was thinking, now, in a holy place, people usually are sometimes influenced by the effect of the holy place. When we live in a very, like for example, if you live in the middle of a city, where in middle of a road, there's lots of traffic and a highway nearby, it's a bit chaotic. People also tend to lose their temper more. So these kind of things, the place sometimes has an effect on the subconsciousness of the person. That's why people like to go for retreats. They like to go to, parks or forests or reserves or places like that where they can detoxify their mind. So that's the idea. So he was thinking, now this is a holy place. And it's a very, very famous holy place. So why, if my sons and the sons of Pandu go there, what if this holy place influences my sons to not fight? What if Duryodhana suddenly decides to see the correctness of the situation and he becomes magnanimous, and then he says, okay, let's not fight. I'll just give you some parts of the kingdom, and then we will take it that way. So deep in his heart, Dhritarashtra didn't want that to happen. He didn't want the compromise. He wanted his sons to be the king, because he also knew if he compromised, eventually the Pandavas will again become prosperous. Also, so these are the main reasons that Dhritarashtra was asking specifically about why he said Dharmakshetra. Now, why is it Dharmakshetra? You may ask, why is it a holy place? So just a bit of background on Kurukshetra. So Kurukshetra is named after the king Kuru. Now, before it was known as Kurukshetra, it was still a holy place. It was a holy place for many other reasons since the time immemorial, actually. Many fire sacrifices were conducted there. Great pastimes happened. But mainly it became famous as Kurukshetra because of the king Kuru. So once, Kuru is the ancestor of all these people, of Dhritarashtra, of the Pandus and everybody. He's their famous ancestor. So King Kuru was very righteous person, and he came over there, and he was a righteous and a very pious person. And what he did, he actually managed to uh, he actually prayed to Lord Shiva, and he also prayed to Lord Yamaraj, and he managed to get Lord Shiva's Nandi, bull carrier, and he also obtained the boon from Yamaraj, his carrier, which is a buffalo. So with the bull, with Nandi the bull, and with the buffalo of Yamaraj, he actually requested their assistance to plow the land of Kurukshetra. So it's a very special plow which he actually built. It's a plow made out of gold from his chariot, and he used this plow by yoking it upon the buffalo of Yamaraj and upon the bull of Lord Shiva. He wanted to plow the land so that he can plant 8 virtuous ideals. It's figuratively spoken. So the 8 virtuous ideals are like truthfulness, saucham, which is cleanliness, and then satyam, truthfulness, and then like that, yoga, austerity, tapa. So like that, 8 different virtues. So when Lord Indra came, he saw Kurukshetra, this area being plowed like that, and then he asked Kuru, the king, "What are you doing?" Then he said, "I'm trying to plant virtuousness in this world. I'm invoking virtuousness in this world through this sacrifice." So then eventually Indra became very pleased, and then he said, "I will give you a blessing. So ask me, what blessing do you want?" And then King Kuru said, "Please let this holy place be named after myself, and also let it be so that anyone who dies in this place will attain heaven immediately. And also they will attain all virtuousness. Anyone who does any sacrifice here will obtain all virtuousness, and when they die here, they will attain heaven immediately." So Indra initially didn't agree, because he thought that, okay, I'll agree with the virtuous part, but then he was not too happy about getting people to come to heaven immediately. So the reason was because in order to come to heaven, that you must qualify. A person should have, because when Indra, how did Indra become Indra? Indra is a position, a post. So the person who is holding the position of Indra currently, his name is Purandra. So how did this person become Indra? So it's mentioned that previously in his many lifetimes, he had performed 100 fire Ashwamedha sacrifices. It's a very, very special, expensive, and a very, very difficult sacrifice to make, even to make one of it. So he actually performed 100. So that is the qualification for someone who is able to become Indra. So like that, even to go to heaven, one should be, extremely righteous, extremely pious, and things like that. So he's saying, how can someone just by dying in this place go to heaven? So it's not, I don't agree with that. It should be, they should have some sacrifice. So, but eventually they had a negotiation. And after the end of the negotiation, it was decided that, okay, the sacrifice shall be that if someone fights a war in that kingdom, in that land, and then he dies, so that is considered a sacrifice, because he is killing, he dies, his life is sacrificed in pursuit of an ideal. So that is considered a sacrifice. So therefore, anyone who dies in the Kurukshetra battlefield, they will immediately go to heaven. So that was the reason Kurukshetra was chosen as the battlefield for the Mahabharata war. So that is the significance of Dhritarashtra Kurukshetra. So like that, this is the first verse. So we can understand here the mentality of Dhritarashtra. Right? Okay, let me just see. Now, Dhritarashtra had these secret desires. Now let us explore deeper about these secret desires. Okay. Now everybody has desires, isn't it? For example, if we ask you, if you could make one single wish which could come true, what would it be? Anyone wants to just give a quick shot? Suddenly, one single wish in your entire life, one time, one chance, what would you ask for? Let me just quickly ask someone. Mr. Ravi, you have a wish? Is there a chat here? Okay. If you're not able to talk, it's okay, you can talk. Yes, Mr. Ravi.
I'm not sure what to.
The first thing that comes to your mind, don't worry. It's not about correct answer or wrong answer. If I just ask you one wish, what's the first thing that will come to your mind now?
Better life.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Only the better
fine.
life lah.
Okay, better life. Anyone else want to make a quick shot? Nobody? Let's ask Miss Suvarna. You want to say something, Mataji? Don't worry, Mataji. Yes.
I would like to wish to see the Lord. One wish.
Very nice. Very nice wish. Okay. This is a very wise wish to make. Okay, never mind. So let's look at this. Now, if we make a wish, we will, let's say we ask this question to the majority of the population of this world. They would find that usually most people will ask for these things. Something that has to do with power, something that has to do with beauty, something that has to do with fame, something that has to do with knowledge, and something that has to do with opulence, wealth and all that. So somebody will say, I want to be powerful. If you ask a politician, I want to be the president. So that has to do with power, isn't it? Or if you ask someone, I want to be the leader, I want to be the king, I want to be in a position where I can control other people. So this is examples of power. Like whatever I say, people will do. And somebody else would say, beauty, I wish I was thinner. I wish I had a sharper nose. Or I wish I had straight hair or whatever. Or I wish I had bigger eyes or whatever. So like that, beauty. And then someone suddenly asks someone for, popularity. I want to be the most popular person in the world, like, artists and all that. Or someone may wish to be knowledgeable. So they may say, I want to create something which will be very useful for the world. So, I want to use my knowledge in that way. So knowledge is also something like that. But most of the time, especially in Kali Yuga, you will find it will lean towards power, beauty, or fame. Knowledge is not really so much more popular these days, but there are people. Or opulence. Anybody you'll ask, you'll say, I want money, I want wealth, I want millions of millions and billions, I want to be the richest person in the world. So this would be their wish, isn't it? That's common, right? So let's understand a little bit about these desires of people, what people want. Now, it depends on the type of people and the social category of people, right? So we have physiological needs. Like if you go and ask people who are starving, they don't have, homeless people. So they would want food. If you ask them, what can I do for you, young sir? Or they will say, can you give me dinner for tonight? Can you give me a place to sleep? This is what they will ask. So this is physiological needs. Now, for someone who has these things, food, water, warmth, and rest, it doesn't become the main thing in life already. In fact, it's taken for granted. When we live in our house, our parents cook for us, or we just take it for granted. Food is every day put in the table, and we don't even say. In fact, we start complaining. Oh, this is not nice, or whatever. We have a roof over our head, but we don't care. We always want more and more. So this is what happens when someone is in a higher social level. So then something higher than physiological needs would be safety needs. They want someone who has food, water, warmth, and rest. They would want security of these things. They want to make sure that these things are not taken away from them. So safety. So what can I do to ensure that I will always have food, that I will always have water, that me, my family, and my friends will always have these things? So that's security needs. So they will want to do things to satisfy this. And some are very much into safety. They're very scared. So I wish there was no COVID in this world, or I wish there was no disease. So they will have this kind of requirements. Someone who is in a higher level, who already has security or some amount of safety, they take it for granted. It becomes something normal to them. So then they would want something more. And this is what we call belonging or love. Now they have all these things, but now they're looking for something higher. They want relationships, they want friendship. And those who have these things, okay, let's say I have a lot of friends. It's not enough that I have food, water, warmth. It's not enough I have security and safety. It's not even enough that I have friends. I must be the best friend. I want to have best friend. I want to be in a situation where people worship me for my accomplishment, or people acknowledge me or appreciate me. So there comes a level of appreciation and accomplishment, prestige, a need for esteem. So like that, so most people usually end over here. So there are few rare people where they actually have a higher requirement. They would want to do something worthwhile. They would want to do something which changes the world or changes people or made a difference. So this is self-actualization. So this is, you must see, some of you may have seen this before. This is called the Maslow pyramid after Abraham Maslow, social scientist. So if you see, some of these things come under the topic of, for example, you can see this is a triangle, isn't it? Now, triangle indicates that there is a goal. What's the purpose? Why people want these physiological needs? Why people want safety needs? Why people want belonging? Why people want esteem? Why people want to feel they are making a change? Why? Why people want power, beauty, fame, knowledge, or opulence? What is the reason? Anyone wants to give feedback on that? What do you think? What are they actually looking for ultimately? Any ideas? Well, some people would say, there's this statement called, we eat to live, right? But some people will say, I live to eat. So it becomes opposite. Why do they need all these things? So there are sometimes, so there's this verse, okay? It says, Ahara, Nidra, Baya, Maitunani, Samanyam etat pasubir naranam. So what this verse says is that there are four differences. Sorry, there are four similarities ultimately between animals and human beings. What are these four similarities? Let's look at them. So the four similarities are eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Now, this happens to be our basic need. A lot of us need these basic needs. We all need to eat and we all need to sleep. And many of us have the desire to have company, right? Procreate. And then there is the need to defend what we have and defend our ego. So this is the basic need. Now the animals have this and we also have this. So is that the goal of our life ultimately? So there is basic needs and there's physiological, psychological needs. Now it's very bad when people elevate the basic needs to psychological needs. When they also feel that I already have food, I already have water, I already have warmth, I have money, I have power, beauty, fame, knowledge, opulence. Imagine we have all these things. After that, what do we do? What do we do with all these things? We take all these things, and in the end, we eat better, we sleep better, we make better, and we defend better. Is that the goal of life? Is that what we actually want? So majority of the people in this world do that. So, for example, some of us, we are satisfied with the simple food. Some of us, they have to go to an expensive, very, very expensive place, and they have to have that kind of food daily, or maybe in a weekly or whatever. So that is their level of requirement. So whatever wealth they have, whatever money they have, whatever everything, why do they want to have success? Ultimately, this is success, right? Material success. Why do we want material success? So that we can have the best of food. Is that really the reason? So we can have the best of beds, so we can have the best of sleep. Is that really the reason? Also, we can impress the best of men or ladies, so that we can marry them, and we can feel very good about our ego. Is that the real reason that we want all this power, beauty, fame, knowledge, opulence? So if we do this only for these four things, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, in the end, if we do these things, then scripture says that we are no different than animals. Pasubir samanam. We are just like a four-legged creature, an animal, because that's what they do also, without many of these things, right? So for example, someone who wants lots of food. Now, the funny thing about this is the Supreme Lord has tricked us. Even if we want to enjoy so much of food, right? In a human body, there is only so much we can eat. For example, I may be so hungry, but when I finally go to a restaurant and then or someone cooks for me a huge feast, how much of it can I eat? I can only possibly take 10% of, or even 5% of what is served to a person, or some, you cannot eat everything. So we become full. So our capacity to enjoy is limited. So we can all agree to that, right? Our capacity to be, our desire may be very great. We all have done this, right? We all have taken a plate, and because we are very hungry, we have put a lot of food on our plate. But sometimes we have not managed to finish the plate. We throw the food away, right? Not knowing that 500,000 people die yearly because of malnourishment. Do we think about these things? No. So this is what happens. So this is the idea of eating. Now, a pig can also eat. Now, animals actually do these things much better than us. Eating, if eating, mating, sleeping, and defending is our goal, actually, we don't need a human life already, because the animal life can do much better. So that's what happens. A pig can eat anything. It doesn't get diarrhea. It doesn't get indigestion. It's scientific fact. It doesn't get, peptic ulcers, nothing like that. And it's able to continuously eat and eat and eat, satisfy itself. And it's not fussy, it's not picky, and it's happy no matter what you give it to it. So that's the goal of life for some people. Then this is what they will get in their next life. It's a waste to get a human life, isn't it? What about mating? Now monkeys also mate. They do it much better. They don't need they don't have to go through extensive courtship. You don't have to go through a very elaborate dating game, or try your best to impress the girl or impress the boy or whatever. Spend lots of money, talk sweet words, have a marriage. It's not necessary. The animals are able to do it so much better, right? Even snakes they mate. So they don't need what do you call, complicated situations for mating. So that should not be our goal of life either, right? Ultimately. And then sleeping. So we need expensive mattresses, air-conditioned room, whatever. But the grizzly bear, and how much can we sleep? Even if we try sleeping, we are, disturbed We get up at middle of the night and we find that we cannot sleep back again. Insomnia. Now, many of you are young, but those of you who are getting older, they will understand that sleep is not something so easy to get when we grow older. So, and I'm 44 right now, so I'm already starting to see these things. So, and I know many people who cannot actually get sleep. So it's a problem. It's definitely a problem. Whereas a grizzly bear can sleep 6 months without interruption, completely happy. So if that's the goal of life, then we are very much beaten by the animals. A dog can sleep anywhere. You can sleep on the road, you can sleep in the hot tar, it doesn't matter. Whereas we, even with the best of situations, we cannot. And then we have a tendency to fear and to defend. We like to fight, fight, fight. So therefore, we produce different weaponry. We have, warfare. We want to protect our hard-earned wealth. But the animals are able to do this. You can take the most powerful boxer, boxing match, a boxer, and you can put him in front of a king cobra. Who will win? So the king cobra will win. Or you put him in front of a lion. The lion doesn't need to go through years of training. He just has to bite the person and the person is dead. So we lose very much easily to the animals. So this cannot be our goal of life. So if eating, mating, sleeping, and defending is not the goal of life, and if we achieve power, beauty, fame, knowledge, opulence, all these things, what do you think is the goal of life? What do you think people in the world are actually looking for? Any ideas? I would appreciate some feedback, please. What do you think? It doesn't matter. Don't worry if it's right or wrong. We are all learning here. So what do you think? Look for yourself. What are you looking deep inside ultimately? Miss Parvati, would you like to say something? What do you think we all want? We are looking for what? Or while waiting for her, anyone else? Miss Sarvita?
Happiness.
Happiness. Very good answer. Okay. Very good answer. Anybody else? There is one more common answer which people like to give. Happiness is, you're right. Yes, Miss Uga.
Peace.
Peace. Yes, that's the second answer I was looking for. So, yes, you're right. Both of you are right. I was not expecting because if other people who I ask, usually they give me a different answers. But yes, you hit both the answers correctly. So let me go through them. So let's just quickly look a little bit more. These days, we see, now let's just reflect a little. We see bigger, fancier houses, but smaller, broken families, right? This is true. Nuclear families nowadays, we have them. Last time, we used to have uncles, aunties, and I know when I was growing up, my uncles and aunties will suddenly just drop by into my house. They won't tell you they're coming, nothing. We'll be doing our own things and suddenly they'll just drop. And then we'll be also happy to see them. And then we'll talk and talk and talk. And then you'll go to the car, you go to the gate and you talk and talk and talk. And then you go to the car and then yet you talk and talk and talk. So like that, this is how we used to be. And we used to be very close. But nowadays, we have uncles and aunties who may be living nearby, but then we hardly go there and see them. Or this is nuclear families now. More and more this is happening. People are living in condos where nobody knows the neighbors. So this is what's happening. Many more conveniences, right? We have all kinds of things, but much less time. I think many of you can agree with this point, isn't it? We don't have time to see the clouds pass. So many more degrees, but much less sense. People are behaving in a way which is something not worthy of education. They have lost the goal of life. They think that everything is basically to look for material success. No shortage of experts, certainly. We have specialists and consultants by the dozens. but never-ending problems. For every single so-called solution that we find, 10 other problems crop up, right? Remember, we found the solution for travel, right? That is fossil fuel. And then so many pollution and all the kind of things came up, traffic jam, whatever, industry. And now we have solar cells. But solar cells has a problem. Did you know solar cells has rare earth elements and lead, and it is not easily recyclable? So what happens to all the solar cells when we throw them? They're going to cause a big problem, a big headache. Currently, nobody knows what to do with them because they have rare earth elements, which are very dangerous. So like that, for every problem that we so-called solve, we get more further, a new set of problem emerges. So that's the issue. We certainly have more medicines, all kinds of medicines these days, all kinds of vitamins. But have we seen better wellness? We find not really the case. And we have taller buildings, but shorter tempers, wider freeways, but narrower viewpoints. We spend too recklessly, but laugh too little. We spend more, but enjoy less. It's easy enough to buy. Now we can buy online. We don't even have to go. But how much do we enjoy? Sometimes we order Grab or whatever, we order food, but we have to eat them while doing work. We can't enjoy it in peace. We buy things online, but what we have bought remains unopened in your house for a few days. And when you open it also, you're not able to actually, you don't even have time to look through. Especially nowadays, we buy a new phone. I don't know, myself, I got no time. I don't even have time to transfer the stuff. I get someone else to do it for me. So it's basically, that's what's happening. We've learned how to make a living. Oh yes, but not a life. So we see a lot of broken families. So here we have families all sitting together, but nobody actually talks to each other. They all talk through the phone to other people. So have you seen, we've seen families who go for restaurants, they sit there, but then each one is, they're not talking. They're just, looking, all of them fiddling with their thumbs and their phones or something like that. So this is a situation that's coming about these days. So now I'm suddenly showing you a palace. Why am I showing you a palace? So this is a beautiful place. Don't you think this is a beautiful place? Wouldn't you like to live in such a place or in such a country? This is the same country, the where I'm showing you the palace. This is what they do in the country when they have holidays. The people go into hot air balloons and they fly. Isn't that wonderful? And it's very cheap and it's affordable. It's by the looks of it, it looks like it's a modern country, isn't it? So we might think, oh, so much better to stay there. Isn't it? If only I was born there. So this country I'm talking about is Lithuania. It's in Europe. You can see next to Germany and all that, next to Belgium. So it's a very small country. So why am I suddenly talking about this country in a Bhagavad Gita class? So it has a secret. The country has a terrible secret. Look at this. Almost 1/3 of all deaths in a year is by suicide. So why? Oh my God, 1/3, So that's all deaths of 1/3. So it's actually the #1 country for the highest rate of suicide in the world, Lithuania. Now this country, I'm sure you all know, you can recognize the Kremlin over there, right? So this is Russia. And Russia, for having such a beautiful place, and of course we know Russia also has a history. So this is also a #4, if I'm not mistaken, for the highest rate of suicides in the world. Okay, Russia I can understand. It's post-communist and they have a lot of social issues. Okay, but what about Korea, South Korea? Very, very advanced, modern. It has one of the best hospitals in the world, the fastest internet connections in the world, super modern technologies, automated systems. one of the best educations and healthcare. Yeah, but still suicide rates are high. Let's see. This is 2019 data. See here, Lithuania is number one. I put here the number 1. I've got this from this website. You can go to that, right? So number 1 is Lithuania. Number 2 is Russia. Number 2 for what? Number 2 for suicide. Number 4 is South Korea. And then like that, what do we see? We see a lot of other very rich countries. We see Belgium, number 11. We see Hungary. We see Japan. We see France, 17. Switzerland. Now you might think, Switzerland is such a peaceful country. Oh my God, everything is beautiful there. But the suicide rate is number 18 in the world. And then we have Finland. Finland is very, very, the GDP of Finland is very high. Switzerland's GDP. Okay, this number here indicates the GDP, the gross domestic product. It indicates how rich a country is. So you can see here number 11. Switzerland is the richest country here, number 11, followed by it's Luxembourg. Luxembourg is number 3, and its suicide rate is 37. So US is also 34 in its suicide rate. So what has happened is there's this person called Professor Richard Easterling. So he is a professor of economics at the University of Southern California, and he has studied this situation of suicide rates, and he has published in his journal in the National Academy of Sciences. What he has found is that there is something very interesting here. Now here I'm putting the lowest suicide rates. Here was the highest suicide rate. This is the lowest suicide rate. So at the last, you can see here, I'm highlighting all these countries. You can see a lot of poor countries, right? Tajikistan, Azerbaijan, Bahamas, Grenada, Antigua. These are all very small countries, right? Iraq, Algeria, Kenya, Philippines, Lebanon, Indonesia, Tunisia, Tonga, Malawi, South Sudan, Madagascar. You can see their GDP, very low. So he found that a lot of wealthy countries are having high suicide rates, whereas a lot of poor countries are actually not having any suicide rate, very little. You can see the rate of suicide, extremely small. So this is called the Easterlin paradox. He named it after himself because he discovered this. And what is this Easterlin paradox? Easterlin paradox says that it's not necessary that suicide is linked to they find actually wealth is one of the factors for suicide. So let's look at worldwide data, annual number of deaths by cause. Now, if you look at and this is all over the world in the year 2016, now many of these deaths are disease, okay, cardiovascular, cancer, and all that we know. Okay, let's look at the first thing which is not disease. Suicide. The first cause of death, which is non-disease related. Everything else is disease, cardio, cancer, respiratory, dementia, blah, 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 neonatal, liver disease, tuberculosis. But the first thing that comes up is suicide in the world. And what's interesting is suicide actually beats homicide. Homicide is people killing. So there are more people killing themselves than people killing other people in the world. Now that's interesting. Or even considering war or acts of tragedy, all the fire in the world, all the conflict in the world, all the heat-related cold deaths, terrorism, natural disasters, all these deaths are so much more less compared to suicide. 0.81 million in a year. Whereas if you take all these things plus together, all the tragedies and the war plus together in a year, right, then you will find that it's still lower than suicide. So people are killing themselves. Why? It's very interesting. Here we have list of suicides in the 21st century. Famous people, celebrities. Marilyn Monroe, we all know, and a lot of people suspect Whitney Houston also committed suicide. Substance abuse, they say. Amy Winehouse, Grammy Award winners. All these are all very famous people. Jonathan Brandis, River Phoenix. These are famous actors. Young, good looking, famous, popular, life's going well. The latest one, Sushant Singh, and there's Robin Williams. I'm not sure if you know them. Robin Williams is a very famous comedian. Mrs. Doubtfire, many other things. And he remains today one of the most baffling suicides in Hollywood. Nobody really understands why he committed suicide, because he seemed bubbly, he was cheerful, everything seemed fine for him. Why suddenly? Not only celebrities, scientists have also committed suicide. Did you know 7 Nobel Prize winners committed suicide out of 518 in the world? And there's a very famous scientist, Ludwig Boltzmann. We have the Stefan Boltzmann constant, those of you who learn thermodynamics. So he committed, an Austrian physicist, Royal Austrian physicist, committed suicide. Edwin Howard Armstrong, he's a very famous US engineer who actually, if we have radio, if we have internet, if we have frequency modulation, we need to thank this person. He's the one who created, he's behind radio technology, and he created frequency modulation. That means, FM and frequency. So this eventually paved the way towards the internet and all that. So we owe a lot to this person. He committed suicide. Others, these are just a few. There are many, many more scientists and celebrities. Ernest Hemingway, very famous author. Vincent van Gogh, one of the great masters of the Dutch painters, one of the great Dutch masters, right? Chris Benoit, now why I put him? Because he's very unique. He is a wrestler. Those of you who like to watch wrestling, he's a very famous wrestler, Worldwide Federation Championship and all that. So why I put him is I'm trying to show that there is no pattern. Different people from all walks of life have committed suicide. And these are famous people. Alfred, this is a royal person, one of the royalties of the British family. He was the heir to become the next Duke of Saxe-Coburg, and he was a relative of the King of Denmark and the King of Germany. All of them killed themselves. So if you want to know more about the royal deaths, there are many, many, many. So why I'm saying all these things is to show that wealth, power, beauty, knowledge, all this is not really what we are really looking for. So what we are looking for, so I think it was Miss Sarvita, you said peace, was it? Right? And another person said happiness, Suga, I think she said happiness. Yes, you both hit it very correctly. That is actually what we are looking for. So there is a verse in the Gita, Nasti Buddhir Avyuktasya, Na Cha Yuktasya Bhavana. This is chapter 266. So we want happiness, but happiness needs something before we get happiness. So Krishna says, how can there be any happiness without peace? So first we need peace. So many people usually say people are looking for peace. Yes, but peace is not the ultimate thing people want. The peace is just a stepping stone, so that why people want peace? People want peace so that they can do something which will make them happy without interruption. Do you agree? Right? So ultimately we can say is we want happiness. That is the ultimate thing that we are all searching for. So where can we find this happiness? Why so many people are searching for it? Where do they find? So, well, from the evidence, we know where it's not found, right? Where is happiness not found? So it's not in material success, because it's just an illusion. Why? Because many reasons. You need a lot of effort just to get a flickering reward. Now think about this carefully. So much of effort is needed just so that you can enjoy a little bit. We do so much eventually so that we can just eat better, sleep better, make better, or defend better. Is that what we really want? It does not last. The happiness that we have experienced in our life so far has any of it really lasted? It's temporary. You get a new car or you get a new whatever, you feel happy for a while. And then after that, the new car becomes just a car, no longer a new car, right? The happiness is not really there. And then you bang your car and then, oh my God, that happiness becomes a cause of misery. Becomes stale. A new movie comes. You watch the movie, then would you watch it again? How many times would you watch it? So, or a new song comes, so it becomes stale, right? Or you meet a new person, like sometimes then you get bored of that person. So becomes stale. Limited capacity to enjoy. Even if the happiness is what you want, you cannot really enjoy it the way you want to, right? We want to sleep, but unfortunately, we are not able to sleep. We want to eat so much, but then our stomach and our digestion limits us. So the same, we want to enjoy nature, but there's always some problem. You go into the sea and then you have to watch out for jellyfish, you have to watch out for sharks. You go to the hiking and then you might get kidnapped or whatever. So these kind of things are there. And it's illusory, just a temporary distraction. Like a baby. A baby will cry, "Wah," and then what he wants is food. And then the food is not yet ready. And the mother says, okay, I'll give you a new toy now, take. The baby looks at it for a while and then he throws it aside. So for a while he's distracted, but actually what he wants is the food. So it's like a fun fair. Imagine in a fun fair. Okay, let me just check the time. Oh dear. Okay. Okay, let me just quickly finish this. So in a fun fair, let's say you are in a fun fair and you see a lost child. The child is lost. The child is going from one place to another place. He's crying. You see a crying person. But if you tell the child, okay, let me buy you, why are you crying, child? Let me buy you an ice cream. Now the child may take the ice cream. He may enjoy it for a while. Or someone will say, I'll bring you to this new toy. You see, this fun fair has lots of entertainment. Why don't you play in this for a while? So for a while, he's entertained. But what is the actual solution for the child? You need to bring him back to the parent, isn't it? So anyway, I'll come back to that later next time. It leads to problems, extra worry. If you have more, if you are rich, right, you're always worried for people coming to take away the money from you. If you have a very beautiful wife or a beautiful, handsome person or whatever, you're always worried that person will be unfaithful or something like that. So like that, it goes on. And finally, there's dissatisfaction. Even if after having all these things, people feel grass is always greener. High effort for maintenance. If let's say I've achieved this certain status, if I want to maintain that status, I need to put so much more effort into it. So stressful lifestyle. That's the rat race. And what's worse, things begin to fade, deteriorate, go out of fashion. Others are not at all that impressed. What's the worst thing is, we do all these things sometimes to impress others, but actually they are not really that impressed. Instead, what they have is envy, and we develop lots of secret enemies. So that's one thing which we have to be careful about. And someone in the end always has better. We may think that we are the top dog right now, but suddenly in another 1 month, another person comes or a new person has better. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So we can understand that those who have it all are themselves killing themselves. They are not that happy. So we know where it's not. The pursuit of happiness, therefore, increasing levels of income and income growth tend to be accompanied by rising expectations and related frustrations. So we have many psychologists who do this. So Benjamin Franklin has said, money has never made man happy, nor will it. There is nothing in its nature to produce happiness. The more of it one has, the more one wants. So, for what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the world but lose his own soul? So we have to be careful. But money has its purposes. We cannot say money is useless, right? What it does give, it gives facilities. That's what money does. That's what all these things do. It gives favor, it gives facilities, but it cannot guarantee happiness. That is accepted fact, even by modern scientists. Why? Is because we have this thing called desire and lust. And this desire is like a burning forest fire. It's actually a example given in the scriptures. Why is it like that? Now, we may think if I desire something, if I get that what I want, I'll be satisfied. So it's like fire, you know. When there is a fire, can we pour fuel into the fire and say, now the fire will be satisfied and leave me alone? The fire will only burn more, isn't it? So therefore, what's the way to stop the fire? The way to stop fire is to cut off the fuel supply, right? So therefore, we have renunciation, detachment. So that's what some of the things Bhagavad Gita tries to teach us. So in our search for happiness, right, this is what modern scientists have discovered. According to a study by a team of researchers by Lord Richard Layard, he's from the London School of Economics, he says, ultimately a very big study, they have found that what actually gives happiness? A person's happiness is based on their personal relationships as well as their physical and mental health, which is basically there to support the personal relationship. So this is what brings happiness according to scientists. So, you know, we have extrinsic happiness and intrinsic happiness. I want more. But then intrinsic is relationships, correct? So the quality of our relationship, okay, I don't have time for this, so I will skip that. The quality of our relationship, I will revisit them later, next time. So the quality of our relationship depends, right? And that is what gives us happiness, actually speaking. So if we can accept life is about relationship, then, you know, we have many authors and psychologists and people who say the quality of your life is, they have written books. But here's another quote: time is the currency of relationship. If you want to invest in your relationship, start by investing your time. But still there is suffering, despite all these things, despite the having those people with relationships, with good relationships, you cannot say that they are free of suffering, isn't it? Nobody is free of suffering. Why? Despite having relationships. It's because in every relationship, there are disappointments. Because no one has a perfect relationship, isn't it? And no one has an enduring relationship. They don't have health or physical or mental health which is enduring forever. And because of that, the relationship also doesn't live forever, isn't it? So when the relationship is terminated, let's say we don't have good relationship, we are unhappy. Finally, when we have the good relationship, and then along the way there's disappointments and all that, but at the end of that relationship, the relationship has to end one day, right? Either by separation or by death, it has to end. And when that happens, how wonderful do we feel? The pain that we feel is oftentimes the greatest pain that we have had. You know, people don't kill themselves because they don't have food, or because they don't have place to stay, or because they don't have security or safety. They kill themselves because they are disappointed, or because their relationships are causing them so much pain. This is the major cause of suicide. So we can understand. So this is what Arjuna was feeling. So we are back to Bhagavad Gita, right? He says in chapter 2, verse 8, Nahi prapasyami mama panutyat yachokam uchoshanam indriyanam avapya bhuma asaptanam vridham rajam suranam apichadipatyam. I can find no means to drive away this grief, which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it, even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven. So he admits, so Bhagavad Gita tells us even 5,000 years ago, we didn't have to wait for all this scientific evidence, that all this power, wealth, opulence, fame, none of these things can give us happiness. It cannot drive away this feeling, right, of despair. So we may find happiness here and there, but always it's like a Ferris wheel, you know, sometimes it's low, sometimes it's up, but always it is temporary. So the happiness that we have in this world is like someone who is in a torture chamber. You know, in those days when they want to torture someone, they put them in a cage and they dunk them inside the river. And then when we are in the river, we are feeling suffering. And then suddenly when the thing comes out, we feel, now I can breathe. And we think that is happiness. So actually that is not real happiness. That is just relief. So what we feel in this world, which we actually mistake as happiness, is actually relief. It is temporary, it's flickering, and it is very relative, and sometimes very much overrated. So this is what happens. And too often we are instead left feeling frustrated, right? You know, big weddings, but short marriages. So this happens, and eventually disappointed with life. So what does that mean? Does that mean that there's no real lasting happiness in this world? So this is an analogy of the camel. So what's happening? Now the camel likes to eat thorny food. You know, it likes to eat the cactus. The cactus is full of thorns. So what happens when it eats the cactus? The thorns actually cut the tongue, and together with the vegetation, because the tongue of the camel is cut, the blood flows within the mouth. So the camel's tongue is constantly cut and blood is flowing. And while the camel is eating, it thinks, this is so tasty. Yes, there's a bit of pain, but you know, it's becoming tastier and tastier. So it doesn't realize that actually it's tastier because due to the blood. So, but still it will continuously go and eat the thorny plants. It will go after that because it thinks it's very tasty. So this is what we are doing in this world. We are trying to enjoy this material world when in reality, it actually only causes pain. Even relationships, it's necessary. I'm not saying we should not have them, but we should understand that this is not where real happiness comes. So are we looking in the right place, or are we looking for happiness in the wrong place? So it's like a fish out of water. When you take a fish and the fish is out of water, and you give that fish, to make the fish happy, you give the fish food, you give the fish money, you give the fish all kinds of facility, you give air conditioning to the fish, you put ice cubes on the fish is not going to be happy. All it wants is water. So what is it that we want? So we do not realize what we want. So the key thing here is, what we are looking for, we are looking in the wrong place. Remember this story I've mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita about how the necklace was lost, and you know, eventually they found it as a reflection. If you remember the story from chapter 15. So we are all looking for happiness in the wrong place. We are all looking for relationships in the wrong place. Instead of looking for temporary relationships, why not have a perfect relationship, right? So therefore, the perfect relationship comes from, there is only one perfect person in this world. Who is that perfect person? That perfect person is the Supreme Lord, Krishna. So instead of investing so much of our time, energy, resources, right, on temporary situations, on temporary relationships, on temporary pursuits, wouldn't it be much better to invest these things on something which is permanent and eternal and perfect? The Supreme Lord is perfect, and he has relationships with his devotees, and he is waiting just for us to look at him. So this is the understanding from this discussion today, that we want to have that relationship. And that's what the Bhagavad Gita is all about. The Bhagavad Gita is giving us understanding about that supreme person who is waiting for us to turn and look at him and to have a loving relationship with him. So he will never disappoint us because he is the one who is being with us life after life, right? So a person who starts to think this way, where can I find this happiness? Then he will start thinking about, who am I? He will start thinking about, why am I here? Right? They will start thinking about, why am I suffering? I don't look for suffering. Do any of us look for suffering? Do we search? We search for happiness, right? We certainly search for happiness. We certainly look for it here and there. But yet, we don't look for suffering, but we get it anyway, isn't it? So why am I suffering when I'm actually looking for happiness? Why is suffering coming to me? I'm not looking for it. Why? Is it even possible to have permanent solutions to our problems? Can I have a perfect relationship? What on earth am I here for? So these answers are there for someone who first of all needs to think these questions. Can we ever have everlasting happiness? So we are going to look at these things next week. So do the scientists know these answers? No, they do not know this. The doctors don't know, the graduates don't know, the scientists don't know, right? The PhDs don't know, right? Certainly Donald Trump doesn't know. Oops, okay. But the best of the scientists in the world, they think so. Yes, I strongly think so. It can be found in the spiritual world. These are scientists who believe in God. Albert Einstein certainly believes in God. Isaac Newton was a great believer of God. Galileo Galilei was a great believer of God. Max Planck was a great believer of God. There are many. Michael Faraday, Nicholas Copernicus, Johannes Kepler, William Thomson Kelvin, Louis Pasteur, Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, Aquinas, Descartes, Kant, Immanuel Kant. All these people these are some of the best of people, material people. And they all believe, yes, you can find happiness with that Supreme Lord, with that Supreme Person. They think so, but they don't know so. So Prabhupada says, yes, I know so. And it's not just Prabhupada, right? He says, but you can all go back home, back to Godhead and attain eternal body, blissful life, right? And it's not just Prabhupada, it comes from Parampara. Shankaracharya says so, Madhvacharya says so, Ramanujacharya says so, Lord Chaitanya says so, and all the Sad Goswamis, Jagannath Das Babaji, so many of the Bhakti Vinod Thakur, all the sannyas, all the great acharyas in our past, they all say so. And these people are some of the best characters in this world, the most righteous of people. So this is to give us an understanding, is there real everlasting happiness? The answer is yes, there is. So Prabhupada says, we are trying to give people that happiness which will never be exhausted. That is our objective of happiness. So we will talk about this more in the next session. All right. So now we are done. I just want to, since 7 of you or 6 of you are here, let me just give some announcements. So actually, I sort of, okay, there's something in the chat. Exactly, Prabhu. Now value for true love is less, and now understand the true happiness and peaceful. Yes, thank you. That it's good that we appreciate this. I'm sure you all do. It's just that sometimes we don't think of these things in a sequential manner. So it helps to put them in a sequential manner so we can all become more convinced. Why? When we become more convinced, then our faith grows. So that is the idea behind this, right? And we can also present to other people. We can convince other people about this. So that's the idea. Okay, so I've talked to the admin for the temple, and I've told, it's not really good that we rush these things. Let us take our time. Let us think about these things carefully. Let us really reflect deeply, and let's take it in a more progressed manner. So I've convinced them we can do this once a week. After all, we don't have to do this daily. I know a lot of you, since today, 12 of you signed up, but then we only have 6 who managed to turn up today. So I know the timing is difficult. So I was thinking we will just continue with once a week class. And then I was thinking of the dates and the time. Now, is Thursday convenient for everybody? Let me know if it's not for anyone. And is the timing is it convenient? would you like it later, around maybe 9 o'clock or 8? Yeah, let me just look at the chat. Anyone? Okay. Any feedback on this? Do you think the timing is fine? I was thinking we can do it on Thursdays. Every Thursday I'm flexible with the timing. For me, I'm okay. I can manage the timing. 7:30 is fine. 8 o'clock is fine. 8:30 is also fine. 9 o'clock is also fine. So think about it and then let me know. And then we can try to suit. Since it's once a week, we can be more flexible. We can try to suit everybody's requirement. Anyone wants to say anything at the moment? Okay, all good. Okay, I assume you're okay. If it's not okay, or even if you have a suggestion, you can just let me know. You can put it in the WhatsApp, and we can discuss. Right. Otherwise, we can maintain. Right. Thursday 7:30 weekly. Okay. So thank you very much. So I hope you can. Yeah. Thank you. So I hope you can see there's a different way in which I'm handling the level 2 now. It's not so much deeply in looking at the Gita sequence because we have already gone through that. We will visit that occasionally, but we are looking into going deeper into each point. So that in that way we can reflect more. We can learn how to apply things in our life. So today was not so much on application; it was so much more on understanding. Next week we will speak more on the application aspect. So I'm going to build slowly, little by little, for you to really understand how we can learn to live Gita. Okay, so thank you very much. There is a quiz. I will post it after this, and I'll see you all again next week. So if there's any feedback or any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Just put them in the WhatsApp. Okay, good evening. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.